Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional turned author from Mumbai, India, Alpana Kilawala. Alpana, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garg. Happy to join.
Thank you. Alpana is the author of a book titled A Fly on the RBI Wall, an insider's view of the central bank. And she has led the RBI's communication function for 26 years. And she just showed you her book. I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Alpana Kilawala's book on Amazon and whichever other platform you go to. So Alpana, let's start with asking you a simple question. What motivated you to document your experiences at the RBI in your book?
To be very honest, I was very, very reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because communication is a support function, and there were top management of the RBI who were consolidating their writings and publishing them as a book. So there was too much already on RBI. RBI itself was writing its own history.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought there's no place for me to write any additional thing. But
Right.
I have a bit of storytelling, being a communicator.
Mm-hmm.
And to my colleagues, and I also teach communication. So to my students, I kept narrating those examples which were anecdotal. And throughout my life in RBI, I kept doing it. And as I was teaching or as I was doing similar things, I kept telling those stories. And all of them insisted that you must write it down. You must write it down. But I thought it was too insignificant. But
Amazing.
some push, and I managed to start writing. And once I started, there was no stop.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about how the RBI's communication department was when you joined, and how did you approach transforming the press relations division into a full-fledged department of communications?
As you rightly said, it was just a division, a small part of a large department called Press Relations Division. So all focus was on press relations. Media. At that time, of course, there was not even media. There was just press, printed newspapers and magazines and all. And we used to communicate whatever little we did through them. So when I joined RBI, I came from print media, from a business magazine. And the focus continued to remain on media for quite some time. And then what happened was around 96, so almost 4 years now. I presented, of course, an approach to how to develop the function. But RBI being such a large organization and a very hierarchical in nature, and change comes very gradually, slowly. So that paper, which was kind of one time, change everything kind of an approach, it was not going to work, which I didn't realize, but my deputy governor, who was in charge of the communication function, must have realized, I'm sure. So he just let the paper be on his table and kept telling me that do this, do that, or why not try this, why not try that? And I kept doing all those things, trying to find my feet within the RBI. And then 96, almost 4 years down the line, website came through, which was given to me ready-made on a platter to me, saying that Abhi tum sambhalo.
Okay.
So it was like nobody wanted to take it, and they said, okay, give it to me, give it to her, she'll do it. And I started learning about website, and then the website came, then other functions came. And what I realize now is that what helped me at that time was my approach, which never said no to anything. I would go seek opportunities of developing communication function. At the same time, whatever came my way, I never left. So that's how,
How interesting.
a little bit here, a little bit there. And we started gradually evolving. And then when I left, it was a full-fledged department.
Fascinating. So you also had an opportunity to work with 6 different governors. Can you talk about the different communication styles of these governors, and what is it that you look for in the communication that a governor needs to be good at?
Talking about 6 different styles will be a whole book, as you have
I
realized.
agree. I agree.
I'll just tell you very briefly 1 or 2 elements of communication
Yeah.
that happened during each governor's time.
Hmm.
Mr. Venkatramanan was the first governor when I joined. It was his foresight that I got in. He said, somebody who is a professional, you should get into this function rather than the line staff, because they would know what communication is. And at that time, it was thick of Harshad Mehta scam and
Right.
our 91 BOP crisis. We were just coming out of it. So a lot of media interactions and all that I had to do. And Mr. Venkatramanan was very, very media savvy. He would keep his ear to the ground, and he received a lot of information, which now is recognized within the regulatory circles as market information, which tells you in advance what's happening, or which keeps you close to the market,
Right.
what's happening there. And a lot of clues in supervision and regulation we find there. So that was his forte, I would say. After that came Dr. Rangarajan, who was very, very erudite, and he was an economic thinker. And at that time, we started the economic reforms. So a lot of explanation, a lot of talking had to be done. And he gave speeches left, right, and center, because that was a need of the hour. And through the speeches, we had to develop communication. He didn't believe in summarizing the speech, because he said, no, it's like an elephant. Let everybody feel whatever it is and figure out what I'm trying to say. But he himself would repeat the speech 2 or 3 times, bits and pieces of that speech would be the major one, and then 3 to 4 emanating out of that speech. And that would explain the whole approach of RBI to the media outside, or the world outside.
Yeah.
Then came Dr. Jalan, who was a very free and frank governor.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in communicating openly. And we started something called media, informal briefing of the media at that time. And he wouldn't hesitate in feeling the ground by just floating an idea as to how it would work before actually implementing it. So we used a lot of media at that time, formally, informally. Then came Dr. Reddy, who I called wordsmith, because he had a tremendous gift with words. You ask him a question, he doesn't want to answer, and he will turn it around in such a fine way that you will not even realize that he has not answered. But he will still answer, and he was very loving. So he would endear himself to the people, and nobody thought even of quarreling or picking up cajoles with him. So it was a very friendly and a very cozy kind of relationship with the press at that time. And then after Dr. Reddy came Dr. Subbarao, who again, being an IAS, he knew how to articulate.
Yeah.
At times when you don't want to answer, you don't answer, but still put out words so that people have something in their hands. He prepared very hard.
Right.
So studied the subject, studied the answers, articulated, practiced himself in front of a mirror, so that he gave the right expressions while talking. And we also participated in most of those preparations. So that was really a learning experience. I would always wonder, we used to use teleprompter in his time when he had to give a statement. So we would call him for practice session, thinking that the speed of the operator and his speech speed have to adjust, have to know each other. So we used to call him for a practice session, which was about half an hour. That was on pre-monetary, previous day of the monetary policy announcement. And I was always wonder whether he will find time. Does he think this is important enough to come and give half an hour of his precious time? But he would always come. Yes. And he would always spend as much time as we would require for the operator to get familiar with him.
Interesting.
So that was Dr. Subbarao. And after that came Dr. Raghuram Rajan, who was absolutely savvy. He had absolutely thorough knowledge of the subject. All the other governors also had, but Dr. Dr. Raghuram Rajan was a professor. So his way of talking, his way of explaining things were very convincing, very
Right.
persuasive. And that helped us in ultimately communicating
Fascinating.
what we wanted to.
Fascinating.
That's
And that's such an amazing summary you've given me of all the 6 governors in such a short time. Thank you. And Aruna, how did the RBI's communication strategies started to evolve in response to digital advancements?
I would say first digital thing, social media that we have now did not exist at that time. Of course, there was this, I'm forgetting the name of that social media, but where social relationships were, and then it kind of didn't succeed very much, and then it stopped. So that was there, and then the website for RBI came as the first. I call it social media because it was technology that helped communication, which is what social media is all about.
Right.
Second thing is instantaneous communication. You put it on the website and in a second it goes to all over the world, whoever is interested in seeing it.
Correct.
So that is why I call website also as, it's not social media, but technology helping communication.
Absolutely.
So that's where we started. And then later on, when social media really came on the scene, all central banks were very wary of using social media because there's a lot of trolling,
Correct.
not as much as what is today. Even then, there was, negative comments coming up, and central banks don't respond to negative comment because there is no end to it. So all central banks had, we used to have a forum of central bank communicators where we used to discuss all this. So we all used to say that let's not go there because we can't respond to negative comments. So why have use of it at all? But then I thought social media is going to be tomorrow's media. And if we don't use it, then I think we'll be behind times. So what I started doing was I started with Twitter account. And we were one of the first ones probably to start using Twitter account. And all I did was we announced it upfront that it's not a two-way communication. So please don't, of course, that was not said so openly, but don't expect answers. But we will communicate, we will tweet whatever important headlines we have. And I automated the whole headline tweeting with the website.
Right.
So it goes on the website, automatically the headline got tweeted. And we had to, of course, rework the headlines because you cannot take, at that time it was, I think, 124 characters. So we had to fit the headlines into 124 characters. And it went out very well. By the time I was towards the end of my career, we had Facebook, which was very individuals used. And we had also started financial literacy at that time, a campaign. So I said, why not use? Because if you want to reach out to the youth, this is the medium. So we started using Instagram, and not so much, but Facebook, yes, for the entire financial literacy campaign. Then later on, after I left, or closer to I was leaving, we started Instagram also. And then we also started the entire financial literacy campaign shifted on to these two medium. And that time I kept saying that we should also start using LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a very, I personally love LinkedIn because it is a very professional body.
Correct.
I call it a body. And connects you very well, and a very useful discussion and discourses happen on LinkedIn.
Very well said.
But I think they're just launching the LinkedIn now.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I guess so far as they use it effectively, fine.
Absolutely. So my next question for you is that, can you talk a little bit about a story from your book that showcases the human side of RBI's leadership?
I have actually marked a passage in my book, which I can read out, but I wanted to go beyond the book and narrate something which is
Sure, please. Yes.
it just in one line. This happened in Dr. Jalan's tenure, and we were very active with media, so my presence was more or less always required. So what happened was it was a longish weekend, and I think I have probably narrated that also in the book. I'm not very sure, but I had taken those 3 days vacation to use it to get my family a little outing. And we had gone close by from Mumbai. So we were enjoying there as a family. And then suddenly this call came from Dr. Jalan's office saying that you need to come back. So I said, today? He said, yes, today. So he said, we are arranging for your flight ticket and all that. You come back and let the car be with you. I had taken an office car because we were allowed to do that at a concessional rate. So the office car was with me. So he said, you keep the car with the family, let the family enjoy. You come back, and after you finish the work that I have for you, you can go back. Somewhere inside me said that I'm not coming back here. So I settled my family. I said, do whatever you have to. I told the driver and I came back. And right enough, we finished the work. After that, there was post conference, there was something. So I got engaged and my family came back. But the very fact that Dr. Jalan was so nice as to let the car be with me, let my family not suffer, and not inconvenience me either. He arranged for, his office arranged for everything to transport me back. So I was really very touched about the human side. And Dr. Jalan, including all the other governors, but since I'm talking about Dr. Jalan, always used to say that even a small officer like me, I'm calling myself small because I was junior in, not senior management, but junior. So even an officer like me, and communication being a support function, he would always say that please ask her to come at so-and-so time if she is free.
Wow.
This from a governor, I would respect that so much. And all the governors had this. They never demanded anything.
What an amazing story you've told us. Thank you so much. My next question is, Apna, what are some of the primary challenges in maintaining the independence of a central bank's communication, especially in a politically influenced or a politically charged environment?
I would honestly say not much.
Not much.
Yes, not much challenge. In the sense that no, we in communication function, we never faced any interference. They never told us how to say whatever we wanted to say. So the governor was always the supreme, and to each governor's credit, nobody ever told me how to do what to do. They left me free to manage the function the way I wanted to. They just gave me the task, saying, "Ye karna hai." And how do you do it? It was entirely left to me. And I have had the audacity to go to governors and tell them that, "Ye aise nahi, aise karna hai." And they agreed. At the time they have differed, they've explained to me as to why they're saying what they're saying. So each time I have learned something, and I have benefited from their complete trust. Government level, there was only one time I remember. I won't call it interference really, but like any other country, government and the central bank of that country, they have different objectives.
Right.
And both institutions are different. And so the divergence in views always are there.
Correct.
So given that, Dr. Reddy's tenure, I think he had come in, and I have described that in detail in the book, where he just come in about a week or so, and there was a budget due, and the finance minister wanted to say something which the RBI was not in favor of. And Dr. Reddy chose a public platform to communicate the RBI's point of view on that matter. And one media person was over enthusiastic, and he filed half a sentence, and the market went into a turmoil. And at that time, the finance minister and later on, Dr. Reddy told me that it was the prime minister also who called him up and told him to rectify the situation, because it was markets which were getting affected.
Correct.
And we agreed to do that. And I suggested a way to Dr. Reddy. The full episode is there in the book, so I'm not describing it.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree.
But I told Dr. Reddy how to do it, and he verbatim did the way I said it, and that was it. So that was only one time I remember when they told us to communicate something. Otherwise, in the manner and
by and large, completely independent.
Absolute independence.
Well said. Well said. You know, when we started our conversation, Alpna, you mentioned when you joined and you were in the early stages of the Harshad Mehta scam also. How did you navigate the complexities of communicating during financial crisis?
Harshad Mehta time, because financial crisis, throughout my career, I saw several of them.
In the Harshad Mehta time.
Harshad Mehta time, I was fortunate because I was covering it as a journalist from outside. So we were like halfway through, and then I joined the Reserve Bank of India. So I thought myself to be very fortunate that what I was covering from outside, and probably we could just see the surface of whatever is happening. Now I will go inside and see it from inside. And I will know everything. So that was the view I went in with. And when I started looking at papers, and there was a lot of activity, which again I have described in the book, so I won't go here into detail.
Yeah.
But a lot of things going on, and I was getting benefit of seeing each and every paper. And the more I was looking at, the more I realized that it was the RBI which found out about the Harshad Mehta scam, that this was happening. And it was Mr. Venkatramanan who could see the connection between the RBI, the government securities market, and the stock market. He could see the connection, which earlier was not so visible. Our inspection reports and all that were commenting upon it and all that, but probably nobody thought about it seriously. Whereas Mr. Venkatramanan realized that this is serious enough and we have to put a stop because it is illegal. So he put a stop to it. And then that is how the Harshad Mehta scam spilled out in the open. Otherwise, it was all going on under the surface.
Yeah.
But what happened was, after realizing this, when I went and spoke to media and showed them the papers and all, they just refused to accept that. I mean, initial talk was it's RBI's fault and RBI let it go for 10 years and nothing happened. And now it's making such a ruckus and all that story. And Mr. Venkatramanan in the center of all that. But when I started showing them the paper, discussion after discussion after discussion, and all I was doing was, they were all friends. I had just joined from among them into the RBI. So there was a little bit of trust. She knows what journalism is all about. So they would listen to me at least, but argue. But slowly, as I went along, the argument started softening down. At the end of it, they said that, हाँ ठीक है, मान लिया that RBI has found out everything, but Venkatramanan to jayenge.
Very interesting.
So I could see that was the agenda. And then the scam also was getting over and all that. And then we had undertaken as RBI a huge reform in the government securities market, electronizing the whole thing. So there were benefits of the whole scam that the markets got.
Amazing. So I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is, what were some of the unique challenges you faced when dealing with international media?
International media is a very unique challenge, as you rightly say. Somehow they come with a preconceived notion.
Right.
At least I have faced that. that most of the time their questions were very biased, they lacked information, they were one-sided, and I had to struggle very hard within the RBI to convince the top management that we must give them access so that they get the right picture.
Right.
Because that's what I believe, that when you communicate through media, when media comes to you asking a question rather than hiding, you should go out and explain yourself, because that's your opportunity to communicate what you want to communicate. If you can't negate the whole story, at least you will get your side into it and the story will get balanced. So I used to argue like in a similar fashion with my top management. And ultimately, I think the governors started seeing what I'm trying to say. They started giving access. And from then on, we saw that the stories started getting balanced. And at times even positive, a lot of times. And by I think Dr. Raghuram Rajan's time, we were seeing a lot of positive stories in the international media also. My plea is only that don't brandish them with one stroke. Just give them access and tell them what the truth is, and you will see that the stories gets balanced.
Well said, well said. And my last question for you, Alpna, this is for a lot of the young people who listen to our conversation. What lessons can young communication professionals draw from your own amazing journey?
One thing I would like to say is that most important thing will be that you have to keep your eyes and ears open all the time. So that you learn, you try to accommodate, you try to change the communication styles, strategies, depending on the feedback that you get from your top management as well as your the media or whoever the stakeholders that you're communicating with. So that's one thing. Second thing is you have to keep learning about the business of your organization all the time. It's just not communication that they give it to you, but even you have to suggest strategies to them, and that you can't until you learn and know the business of your organizations. So participating in business is as much value adding to the communication strategy as the business itself.
Very well said. Very well said. And on that note, and your two amazing lessons for young professionals, keep your eyes and ears open and keep learning as much as you can about your business. Thank you, Alpna, for speaking to me about your incredible journey as someone who led the communication function for the Central Bank of India. Thank you for talking to me about your book, A Fly on the RBI Wall, an insider's view of the central bank. I think you have mentioned to us that your book is full of amazing stories. I'm certainly going to pick up a copy. I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to pick up Alpna's copy and read, because there will be so much to learn from an institution which is a part of each and every Indian's life. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much for inviting. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.